Okay, so here we go. We're reinstalling the rear spindle here. I put everything in its place. I haven't tightened the bolts down, but you can see that you have a bolt down here. This takes a 21 millimeter socket right here. Two 15s, one here on the bottom, one here on the top for this strut right here. Okay, I loosened up this 18 right here just to make this easier to manage so I can move it around and get it set up. And then there's one right up here. That's a 21 and an 18. All right, so the way I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this up is bolt the bottom up first. I'm gonna run this down and I'm gonna run this down. Then I'm gonna run this one down. So anytime I do a spindle like this, I call it a triangle. I try to do the two bottom and the top. And then I'll go around and get whatever strut rods might be attached to it. So once I get this one here and this one here, and then this one, I'll go ahead and tighten this one up. Tighten that because I loosened it just to make it easier to maneuver. And then I'll go ahead and put on this bracket which goes over here. There's the little hole for it. And of course the hub is going to be bolted in. I could bolt it in from the back. It shouldn't be a problem. That's the way you're supposed to do it. All right, so theoretically you're supposed to unbolt it from the back and pop the bearing out, put the new bearing on and put your brakes together, but it didn't work out that way. I had to take this spindle off. And just another thing I just want to note, and I'll see if I can do a video on it. The caliper. Okay, so this is an electronic brake, electronic emergency brake. That's a very expensive caliper right there. You don't want to break it, okay? So the way to operate this caliper, and let me just start by saying this does not have to be spun in. Normally, pistons that have emergency brakes attached to them like that will spin. And that's how the emergency brake is actually operated, by turning that piston. When the piston turns, it comes out, it locks the brakes, and then when you release the emergency brake, the piston will spin back in and it'll release it. This doesn't work that way. This has a motor in it. It is the motor that just pushes the piston up against the rotor, the brakes up against the rotor and locks it in. So how do you do this job without destroying that very expensive caliper? Well, you have to put the vehicle in what's known as the parking brake service mode, or emergency brake service mode. And it's not that hard to do on this car. What that's going to do is it's going to allow you to push that piston in. Retract it is the term we give for pushing a piston in. Retract that piston in so that you can get the new brake pads in, because the new brake pads are going to be much thicker than the old ones, right? That's why you're changing them. So basically what it is you're going to turn the key on, you're going to put your foot on the accelerator pedal, and you're going to push down on the emergency brake switch, which is how you would, that switch is how you would apply the brakes. You would pull it up to apply it, push it down to disengage the emergency brake. So you actually turn the key on, you put your foot all the way down the accelerator, and you push down on that button, and it will put it into parking brake service mode. And then you just do the opposite when you're all done with the job. You put your foot down on the brake, on the gas, I'm sorry, the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor. You're going to pull up on that switch, and it's going to put it back into regular mode. And it's actually going to push the emergency brakes that this motor is going to operate the piston and lock them down on both sides, and it's going to find an area where there's just the right amount of drag for the brakes to spin freely, but yet also apply the emergency brake. So there really is no adjustment. That's all done through the module that's in here. So if you're going to do emergency brakes on any vehicle that has an electronic caliper like that, electronic emergency brake, you must put the vehicle in the parking brake service mode. Not all of them work this way. Sometimes you have to use a scanner and put a scanner on it and put it into the mode. Others, they just require you to disconnect the connector. Sometimes some guys I know will even jumper it and run it in, but I don't recommend doing that. I think you should do it with a scanner, which is basically what the scanner would do. It would just jumper that. Here's your connector, power and ground. When the polarity is reversed. When it goes one way, it'll push the piston out, and when it reverses, it'll pull the piston in. And guys will do that. They'll jumper it and push the piston in, do the brake job, and then pull the piston out when they're finished. I don't recommend that. However, if you don't have a $6,000 scanner, that might be the only way to do it. But in any event, do not try to retract that caliper, that piston, until you put this thing in the service mode one way or another, or you will destroy it, I will guarantee it. So that's about it for this video. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it short. I'm gonna bolt this all up together, put it together. When the hub bearing comes in, which to be tomorrow, I won't get to it till the day after, I'm gonna go ahead and put that in, and I'll do a video on that, and then we'll go to the control arms in the front of the vehicle, and we'll go from there. So until then, see you.